The football team travels to Iowa City to take on Iowa on Saturday at 11 a.m. on ESPN. Head coach Paul Chryst is here. We'll have some opening comments and take questions.
Well, obviously, much like what I said after the game, was proud of the way our kids put it out there and played and competed. And one thing I forgot to mention that was really stood out, and I was happy as talking to some of our kids yesterday, and was appreciate the atmosphere and the fans, and it was you try to paint a picture for the kids of what to expect, and we'll do that today about going down to Iowa City, and we did that last week with what it could be like, and it was everything. So appreciate the fans and all that, and this week I really am looking forward to getting back with the group. We had a bunch of kids come through yesterday. That was their day off, but today we get going full tilt on preparation for Iowa, and it's they're playing well, and we know going down there it's going to be a heck of a game, and just need to have a great week of preparation and get to go play Saturday. Looking forward to it.
Paul, after Iowa lost a couple early season games, some people seem to count them out a little bit. But when you look at this team on film, is the talent still there from a team that went 12-0 last year?
Absolutely, they're very talented. They're well coached. It's a good football team, and you see that on tape. And we've got to have a great week of preparation, and we've got to play well. And it starts on offense. They've got a experienced, really good quarterback, and they've got players around them, and defensively they're playing well. It's a really good team, and like I said, I've always had a ton of respect for the way they're coached, and we're looking forward to playing them. But it's we've got to have a good week, and we've got to play well.
Paul, after the game, Michael Dieter was saying that even though you guys got some big hits in the running game, he thought the offensive line still didn't do enough to do it consistently or protect Alex. I know you looked at some different combinations, but when you evaluated it, did they play okay? Did they play better than they had in that game?
Yeah, they did some really good things, and it's so, and I understand everyone wants to, where is the growth? But each week, there's a whole nother component that will only be that week, and that's who you're playing against. Whether it's schematics or whether it's the personnel, it could even be what type of game it is. How's the game flowing, and so I think and I know that this is old, but it's so true that there are some things that we're doing. I thought we got better in some areas that week, and there's things that we're doing well, and you can take offense, defense, special teams, and there are tangible, specific things that whether it's a unit or each kid can do to get better. And I think that's our job, to point those out, because if you just say, hey, you got to get better, geez, we got to make a couple more plays, that's the obvious. Now, how do I do it? And if you can point that out as a coach, then you've got a chance to help your players. And so I think Michael sees it right, and you appreciate it. And there was some really good efforts and some good things that we did that, boy, if we can take that and carry it forward against a different team, different scheme, then we will be making that progress that we want. And I think you can take every guy that played, and there'd be whatever percentage that is of, I can be better. And that's what I like about this group, and I've appreciated from this group, is that they want to get better. It matters. They want to play and they want to do it, but they also want to contribute to the team. And when they don't do something, they feel like they're letting the team down. And that's the balance. You don't want them to feel that negativity, but boy, you appreciate that responsibility and accountability that they want to shoulder.
Paul, when you go into a rivalry game like this as the team without the trophy, is there a little bit different feel or different attitude about it? And especially when they came in here and took the trophy from you guys last year.
I think, Jason, that the beautiful thing about this team and when you play this season that this is our team this year. And we all, those of us who were part of it last year, we understand what happened. And yet none of that carries forward. We got a ton of respect for Iowa, and I do certainly for their program, but it's about this Saturday, who's the best team.
Coach, Vince starts this week as questionable on the injury report. Can you first off describe how anxious he's been as he's been inching closer to getting back, and the chances for Iowa this week?
As far as chances, we'll see how the week goes, and yet I do think that Vince loves playing the game, and he really, in all the right ways, cares about this team, and so that's been the sting for him. But I think he's been, once you go into a procedure, when you're making progress, to me, it's less anxious and it's more looking forward to when he can go again. And so he's been making good steps or taking good steps forward, and we hope that continues. But he's been really good, but it's been more of an energizing thing than an anxiety. And don't get me wrong, I mean, the 2 games that he's missed to this point, that has bothered him a lot. But I think at least when he's had the procedure now, last time you talked to him, how you doing? I feel good. I was able to do this, so he feels like he's going forward. So I don't feel like it's an anxiety as much as just if there's anxiousness, it's anxiousness to get playing again. But he's encouraged by what's happening.
Jeff.
Paul, Alex was asked about the 4th down play, the last play of the game, and he said, I've got to be able to get the ball out of my hands, find a way.
Right.
When you look back, did he have a chance to do it, or is he just being a trooper and saying, it's on me?
I think, there's a chance. Was it how you'd want it to be, or it would have been faster than even you might anticipate right there. But, I think he did have a chance too. But it's so much different. Like when and we talked about it right away, right? I mean, not right away, but you address it. A lot of those situations are, if it's not there, it's not there, still give it a chance. It wasn't one of those that he held on to it and then couldn't find it and therefore didn't. It was on him faster than we would have liked. His point's still right, that you do have to give it a chance, but that's easier, like a lot of these things, easier said than done, and it's a learning experience that we've all, we all can learn from. And, as a coach, right away, what can you do to better help these kids? Not just that play, but in these games.
Andy.
Paul, I know you don't put a lot of stock in the polls, but is it possible that your team has gotten more national respect with back-to-back losses than they had in the 4 games previous to that, given that you're still in the top 10?
You're right about the first part. So it's hard to answer the second part. It's all I really care about is this group. I care a ton about the program, but this group, and you know what? We're halfway through the season, and I still think that it's the beauty of the season. It's a journey, and what you do each day and each week puts it all into the story of who you were, and we want to be the best team that we can be, and the only way to do that is have the best day you can have. And at the end of the year, they can write who we were and what we were, and yet I'm very appreciative of in the program and where we're at nationally. I mean, that's important to me, out of respect as much as we don't need it to validate who we are and what we are and what we need to do, but you appreciate it. So I don't know how to. It took a long time answering something I didn't answer, and I don't know how to answer.
Tom.
This would be a good follow-up.
What has this team shown you in the first 6 games?
What have they?
Yeah.
I think it's a group that likes playing. Like, I believe that. And I think it's a group that cares tremendously about each other, and I think it's a group that you can challenge them, and they have a confident, and we have an inside confidence, but there's definitely no arrogance to that group. And I think it's a group that, for us to be the best, we have to keep improving each week. I think that's the halftime report. You know what I mean? I think it's a group that every day I look forward to seeing them and knowing that they're going to come and practice and they're going to have fun doing it with each other, and yet there's a purpose to it. And they do like playing the game, and they like playing it with each other.
I'm guessing you follow Twitter as much as you follow the polls. But Derek Tyndall
Really went on a limb there.
Yeah. Derek Tyndall actually tweeted out the disappointment he felt about that overtime touchdown reception in back-to-back weeks. Feels like he let his team down. Do you have to pull a young man like that aside and say, hey, it's all good?
DT is one of those guys. Probably spent 15 minutes with him yesterday, and that was no different than another Sunday. And that's kind of what I talked about after the game. What bothered him was not something for him, but that he cares about the team. And he also sees that he can make a difference, right? That's the confidence I'm talking about, the inner confidence. And absolutely, I think that's part of my responsibility is you don't want them having to shoulder unnecessary burdens. And yet I love where he's coming from and what he's really saying. And I think that's where we can always help him in keeping things in perspective. And you don't want to see anyone, I mean, they're like your kid. You don't want to see them in pain. You don't want them, but you love that. And that's the risk that when you put yourself out there and when you fully immerse yourself into something, there's a risk, right? But there's also great rewards. There's great growth in that. And so you feel bad that it's no different than in a whole different one, Dakota after the first game. He felt like there was some things that he did to us, and that quality you love. And how can we then help them navigate and grow through these experiences? That's the fun part of coaching.
Paul, I think Corey's first 2 years here as a reserve, he experienced a lot of success. But then last year and at times this year, there was some frustration. His game Saturday, in addition to helping the team, do you think he needed that to kind of, I don't know, maybe if he had lost confidence, but just kind of give him a feel like, okay, I can still do this at the level I expect?
I think that every time a player goes out and a kid goes out and has, I think they all have a vision of what they want it to be and what they see they can do. And when you're able to do some of those things, I think it does give you confidence. For some, maybe it's that first play that they ever play and like, I belong. And for others, the other challenge is when you've got high expectations, can you do that over and over? I think that's, defensively, as a group, we're doing some good things. And there's always new challenges and new hurdles to get over. And so I think, to your point, yeah, I'm sure it makes him feel like, my vision is what it should be. And I don't think that he doubted himself as a player, but I think you still have to go do it. And hopefully, and that's the, hope's not a method, but he can take that and build on it. And there's still some areas that he can see and like, how can I even be better here? And, but I think that's why what we get to focus on is all those things and how do you build on it, and which makes some of these other often talked about things less important, because those are the things that matter most. Is how can Corey take what he did and build on the things he did well and get better in those others, so then he really continues to feel that and continues to grow.
Paul, the fans at Kinnick Stadium are so close to your bench. How distracting can that be? And B, as a player or coach, do you remember a time where you heard something and it made you laugh?
Oh, not just there, but yeah, it's a serious business, Jay. We're not laughing. And I think those are part of the great experiences of when you go on the road. It doesn't matter where you're at, and each stadium's got its own little nuances, and they are right on top of you, and that's what makes going down there a fun place to play, but a hard place to play, and that's what our players just have to deal with and get to deal with, and but yeah, there's a lot of ugly stuff, but there are some funny things that are said, and you appreciate that. I remember, but there's no way that I'm going to take any more time to enlighten you with that response.
Jason.
Coach, has Natrell suffered any kind of setback, or is it just taking a little bit longer than you guys anticipated with him?
No setbacks and not longer than we've anticipated.
Paul, regarding Iowa for a bit, they made some changes on their offensive line after I think it was the Northwestern game. Looks like they got their running game going. What problems do Wadley and Daniels present, and how different of runners are they in terms of their style, what they can do?
You know, as you start watching it, and that's kind of especially those teams that have had an identity for a number of years. You know, initially it's, oh, here we go again. You know what I mean? You kind of plug them into the humor, and then the more you watch them, you see differences. And I think that, you know, they, like you said, they're trying to figure out what was the combination, and it does seem like they're going. But I think they're different backs. Now, I don't think that to the point where this is this style of offense with this, or you know that they can still run their whole offense. Looks like at this point in the week as you're studying them, but the more you watch them, you see differences, and yet I think that, you know, I don't know if we're to the point where you're going to change your plan because of one or the other.